The twin suns hung low in the orange sky as Cole wiped sweat from his forehead. The desert outpost was quiet, too quiet. His small metal booth sat at the edge of the alien marketplace, covered in dust, rust, and loneliness. He hadn't made a single trade in 3 days. His supplies were running low, and no one seemed interested in the human items he offered. He looked down at the last thing left in his crate, single glass bottle of whiskey from Earth. It was old, aged in oak, with golden liquid glowing in the evening light. He'd saved it for himself, a comfort drink for when all hope was gone. But now, it was his last chance to make any trade at all, just as he stood to close his booth. He saw her. She moved like a shadow, wrapped in a thick cloak. That dragged along the dirt. Her face was hidden, but her walk was strong. She stopped right in front of his booth, standing silently. Cole watched her carefully. Something about her presence felt heavy, like the air had changed. "You are the human," she said softly. Cole nodded. "That's me. You buying or just curious?" Her eyes locked on the whiskey bottle. "Is that ... firewater?" He raised an eyebrow. "You mean this?" "Yeah, Earth whiskey. Strong stuff, rare around here." She stepped closer. "I will trade. My house needs warmth." Cole blinked. He didn't expect such a direct answer. "All right, what are you offering?" She reached into her cloak and placed 2 glowing stones on the table. They shimmered like blue fire, pulsing with energy. Cole recognized them immediately, rare heat crystals. One of these could power a heater for months. "This is too much," he said, surprised. She stared at him. "Take it." Cole didn't argue. He handed her the whiskey and took the crystals. As she held the bottle in both hands, she whispered something in her alien tongues, something that sounded almost like a vow. Then she turned and walked away. Without another word. That night, Cole sat in his booth, confused and a little uneasy. The trade had been good, better than anything he could have hoped for, but her behavior had been strange. He kept hearing her words in his head, the way she had looked at him. It wasn't just business. As the night grew colder, Cole wrapped himself in a blanket and leaned back in his chair. The stars above the desert were bright, scattered like diamonds across the sky. He let his eyes close for a moment. Knock, knock. The sound came from his booth door. He stood up quickly, blinking away the sleep. No one visited this late, not in this place. He opened the door and froze. Standing there were 3 young alien women. Each had long dark hair, glowing teal eyes, and skin that shimmered softly under the moonlight. Their clothes were simple, and each of them carried a small bag. They looked nervous, but also calm. One of them stepped forward. "We come from the house of Selmira," she said. "Our stepmother gave you the firewater." Cole nodded slowly. "She did." "Why are you here?" Another girl lowered her head. "She chose you," the third one added. "You are now tied to our house." He laughed nervously. "Tied how? I don't understand." The first girl looked up. "By giving her firewater, you accepted her call. In our law, that means union." Cole frowned. "Union? Wait, are you saying I'm married to her?" "No," the second girl whispered. "To us." The air felt colder than before. Cole stepped back, trying to understand. What was happening? "Look, I just made a trade. That's all. Didn't agree to anything else." The girls looked at each other. Then the third one spoke. The trade was sacred. Giving warmth to a house means you accept its legacy. She gave you hers. We are her daughters. Now we belong to you. Cole shook his head. This has to be a mistake. Debt. But the girls didn't move. They stepped into the booth quietly, placing their bags near the wall. One of them sat on the floor. Another began arranging her belongings. The third stood beside him and placed her hand gently on his arm. "You may not understand now," she said softly, "but the bond has begun." Cole couldn't sleep that night. The girls curled up silently near the heating unit, speaking to each other in their soft language. He sat in his chair, trying to think of a way to undo this. There had to be a way. He didn't want trouble, didn't want to disrespect alien customs. But he also didn't plan on becoming a husband to 3 strangers because of a bottle of whiskey. Still, part of him couldn't ignore how peaceful they looked. how calm they were. As if they truly believed this was right, as if they had been waiting for this. As dawn broke over the alien sands, Cole looked out the booth window. Everything had changed, and he didn't even know their names yet. Cole didn't wake up to the sound of traders or engines the next morning. He woke to the smell of something warm cooking inside his booth. He blinked. His small stove was on. Pan was heating, and inside it, something that looked like thick purple roots sizzled in oil. One of the alien girls stood over it, carefully flipping the pieces with a flat tool. The other two were cleaning his floor and folding his old clothes. He sat up fast, his heart racing. "What are you doing?" "No." Three turned to him as if it was a normal question. The girl at the stove answered first. "Making food for our bondmate." The second girl nodded. "You gave our house warmth? We give you care," the third added softly. "And we stay if you allow." Cole stood slowly, rubbing his eyes. "You slept on the floor. You cooked my food. You're cleaning my clothes." They didn't answer right away. Instead, they looked at each other like they were making sure everyone agreed. Then the tallest one spoke. "We were born from silence. Our father is gone. Stepmother rules our house. She chose you." Cole narrowed his eyes. "Because of one bottle of whiskey?" The stove girl nodded. "To give firewater from your world means you offer yourself as keeper of the hearth. It's a sign of protection, trust, and union." He raised his voice slightly. "But I didn't know that. I didn't mean that." One of them stepped closer, placing her hand gently on his chest. "But she did. And in her name, we were sent to complete the bond." Before Cole could answer, a voice echoed from outside. "You accepted the warmth. Now you must carry it." Cole froze. The stepmother had returned. She entered without asking. She was tall and sharp-featured, her cloak now pulled back to reveal silver lines on her cheeks, a sign of high caste.
Ow.
In one hand, she carried a box carved with glowing symbols. In the other, she held the now empty whiskey bottle. She placed both objects on the table and looked at Cole. "You made a choice. Now accept the consequences." "Didn't know what it meant," Cole said. "In my culture, it's just a drink." She smiled faintly. "In mine, it's a promise." He opened his mouth to argue, but she held up a hand. Could refuse, yes. "But no, this refusing a blood call once accepted brings shame to my daughters. They will not be welcomed in any other house. Their value will be dust." The girls lowered their heads. Cole could see it in their faces. They already knew. "You speak of value," he said, "but I'm not rich, not powerful, not even from this world. Why send your daughters to me?" The stepmother stepped closer. "Because you are kind. You speak with respect. And you did not try to take more than was offered. That is rare in our stars." Cole looked at the three girls. One was still, holding the cleaning cloth. Another stood nervously behind the stove. The third stared at the floor as if afraid to breathe. He sighed. "And if I accept, then what?" The stepmother placed a strange fabric on the table, half cloak, half scarf. "Then we begin the ritual of settling. The daughters will live with you, learn you, share breath, warmth, and touch. And after the third cycle of moons, you choose who becomes first flame." Cole's face turned red. "First ... what?" She didn't answer with words. She simply turned and walked away, the empty whiskey bottle swinging from her hand. The silence afterward was heavy. The girls didn't move. They waited for Cole's word. He looked at them and sighed deeply. "I don't know your names." One by one, they introduced themselves. "I am Vera," said the tallest, the one who had placed her hand on his chest. "I'm Selly," said the one who cooked. "Nayera," whispered the quiet one near the floor. Cole sat down on his small chair, staring at the strange fabric the stepmother had left behind. "This is insane," he muttered. But part of him knew his life had just changed forever. Not because he wanted it to, but because in one corner of the galaxy, a simple human act meant something sacred. And now, 3 alien daughters called him something he wasn't ready to hear husband. Cole didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. 3 alien girls slept on the floor of his booth like it was their home. One curled up near the heater, the second used his extra coat as a pillow, and the third lay close to the door, as if guarding him from whatever might come. Cole sat in his old chair, wide awake, gripping a half-empty water flask. His mind raced. He wasn't a husband, wasn't even dating anyone. Back on Earth, he didn't know how to talk to women, let alone 3 alien girls who had just declared him their bondmate. The booth was silent except for their slow, soft breathing. Then dash movement. Stirred and sat up. Her glowing eyes blinked in the dim light. She looked at Cole, tilting her head like she was reading him. "You didn't rest," she said. He forced a smile. "Hard to sleep with 3 strangers on my floor." She stood and walked over quietly. "Then let me make you calm." He tensed. "Wait, what does that mean?" She stopped, puzzled. "It means I sing." Cole blinked. "Sing." She nodded, then sat near him and began humming. The melody wasn't like anything from Earth. It was slow, deep, with gentle hums and strange clicks. At first, it made his muscles tighten, but slowly, his shoulders relaxed. His thoughts slowed, his hands let go of the flask. He didn't remember falling asleep, but when he opened his eyes, morning light poured through the booth window, and something was tied around his wrist. Cole sat up fast. A thin thread of blue and silver cloth now wrapped around his wrist, tied in a small, elegant knot. It shimmered in the morning light. He looked around. The girls were awake, standing in a line before him, heads bowed. In front of them stood an elder alien woman he'd never seen before. Her robe was covered in tribal symbols, and her eyes were pure white. "What is this?" Cole asked, lifting his hand. The elder spoke, voice soft but firm. "This is the thread of promise. You were marked in sleep. You are now in the first stage of bond." Cole's eyes widened. "You did this while I was sleeping?" Vera stepped forward. We waited for calm. Your breath slowed. You allowed touch. "I didn't allow," he began, but the elder interrupted. "No one forces a thread. It will not stay unless the heart accepts, and look, it remains." Cole stared at the thread, stunned. The knot shimmered, untouched by anything else. It felt warm, alive. The elder placed a small bowl before him. Inside was water, glowing faintly purple. "Drink to seal. The rest, or remove the thread and break the bond." He hesitated. The 3 girls looked at him, his eyes wide with silent hope. He reached for the bowl, but just before it touched his lips, he paused. "Wait, what happens if I drink this?" The elder replied, "Then they will remain, as will the bond, and you will become protector of their house. And if I don't, they will return in shame, cast from their house. It's untouched, unwanted." Cole looked at the water again. He didn't want wives, didn't want trouble, but he couldn't ignore the fear in the girls, or the calm in his chest the night before. He lifted the bowl and drank. The girls gasped. The elder smiled, placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered a short chant. Then she turned and left the booth without another word. Vera, Selly, and Niara stepped closer. Cole spoke before they could. "This doesn't mean I love you. It doesn't mean I'm ready." Selly nodded. "We understand. But now we have time," Niara whispered. "We will not rush. Just stay." Vera looked into his eyes. "You gave us a future. Let us earn the rest." Cole sat back down, rubbing. The thread around his wrist pulsed softly, like it had a heartbeat. He stared at the door. The desert beyond looked the same, but his world had changed again, not by choice, but by something deeper than law, by a vow made in sleep and sealed. In silence, Cole thought sharing a small booth with 3 alien girls couldn't get more awkward. He was wrong. By the 3rd day, his tiny space felt like a pressure chamber. It's not because it was crowded, but because of the way the girls looked at each other. When he spoke, when he touched one by accident, the others would go silent. When he praised one's cooking, the other 2 would pretend they didn't hear. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. Back on Earth, no one fought for his smile. Even a passing glance sparked quiet tension between three alien sisters, who had been raised together, now silently competed for his favor. It began with a simple gesture. Cole was fixing a broken wire near the power unit when Vera knelt beside him and handed him a tool. Their fingers brushed just for a second, but it was warm, grounding, and somehow personal. When he looked up, Sally was staring at them. Her lips were tight. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. She didn't say a word, but something in the air turned cold. Later that evening, Sally prepared his favorite stew without being asked. Then Niera, the quiet one, brought out a small cloth bundle and said, "This is for your sleep." Inside was a handmade pillow, sewn from scraps she'd collected when no one was watching. Cole's heart pounded. They were trying to win him, but he didn't know the rules of this game. And worse, he didn't know how to stop it that night. The storm came. A dust storm from the east rolled over the desert, with howling winds and biting sand. The booth shook. Lights flickered. Cole locked the door and secured the hatch windows. Outside, the world disappeared into red smoke and screaming wind. Inside, the girls huddled close to him near the heater. Then it happened. The lights went out. Everything fell into shadow. Cole reached out in the dark, and his hand found Sally's shoulder. She jumped at first, but didn't pull away. He felt her trembling. She was scared. He spoke gently. "It's all right. Just a storm." Sally didn't speak, but her hand wrapped around his wrist. She leaned into him, and he could feel her heartbeat racing against his side. A moment later, Vera's voice cut through the dark. "Where are you?" Cole answered. "Here. We're all right." He felt Sally shift slightly, as if claiming her space beside him. Then Niera's soft voice, "I can't see. I'm cold." Cole reached out and pulled both girls closer, wrapping a blanket around all of them. Their strange energy filled the booth. Warmth, tension, breath. 3 bodies pressed near him, each reacting in their own silent way. Then Vera touched his chest, gently. "Your heart is loud." Sally replied quickly, "It's because of the storm," Niera added. "It's because he's not used to closeness."
Vera.
Vera didn't move her hand. Cole sat frozen, surrounded, confused, dazed, deeply aware. When the storm ended, morning broke in silence. The girls had already woken and were sitting apart from each other, facing different walls. None of them spoke to one another. Cole stood in the center of the booth, rubbing his temples. "What's happening here? This isn't normal." Vera spoke first. "We are bound," Sally answered, "but we are not the same." Niera said nothing. She simply looked down at her hands. Cole took a deep breath. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for any of you to fight." Vera stepped forward. "We do not fight. We test." Sally's voice turned sharper. "We test to see who fits him best." Niera finally looked up. "We only want to be chosen." That word chosen hit him hard. He didn't want to break hearts. He didn't want to play favorites. But in their culture, this bond meant something. They weren't flirting. They were offering their future, and his next move would shape all of theirs. Cole turned away, stepping outside into the fresh desert air. He stared at the horizon. 3 alien girls waited behind him, each ready to give everything for his hand. And he had no idea who he was supposed to be: a guest, a guardian, or a lover. Cole was patching the cracked roof panel when he sensed the same chill in the air he'd felt days ago. He climbed down the ladder and turned toward the dusty path leading into the outpost. She was back, the stepmother. She walked calmly through the swirling dust, her silver-lined robe flowing behind her like smoke. Traders nearby went silent as she passed. No one dared speak. No one dared look at her too long. She stopped at his booth and raised her head. Her glowing eyes met his. "You drink the bond," she said, "but you have not made the flame." Cole stepped forward slowly. What does that even mean? Inside was a small stone, deep red, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. "This is the heartstone of the house. It belongs to the one you choose first." Behind her, Vera, Sally, and Niera stood quietly, heads lowered. Their faces were unreadable. "Cole didn't take the stone? You expect me to just pick one? Just like that?" The stepmother's voice was but sharp. "You are the protector now. But without balance, Even protectors fall. You must decide who carries the flame. He stared at her, and if I don't, she stepped closer. Then the bond will crack. The daughters will turn on one another. The house will fall. You are their center now. You do not have the right to be indecisive. Cole looked at the girls. Selly's hands were clenched. Vera's eyes were steady. Nyara wouldn't even meet his gaze. He whispered, "They're sisters." The stepmother turned her back to him. "No, they are rivals now." The tension inside the booth that night was worse than any storm. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one cooked. Cole sat with the heartstone in his hands. It pulsed softly, as if alive, as if waiting. Each girl kept to her corner. Celie stared at the floor, her fingers tracing patterns in the dirt. Vera polished the tools near the heater, her movements slow, almost robotic. Nyara sat near the window, hugging her knees, looking out at the stars like she was ready to disappear into them. Cole's chest felt heavy. This wasn't how he imagined any of this. He didn't want to break anyone. But the stepmother's words echoed in his mind. Without balance, the house will fall. Then something happened. The booth lights flickered once, then died. Not a storm this time. Something was outside. A scratching sound on the roof. A sharp hiss near. The vents. Cole jumped to his feet. "Get down now." The girls obeyed instantly, moving to the floor as Cole grabbed his old rifle from the corner. He pointed it at the door. A loud banged, another hiss. Then silence. He moved slowly, heart pounding, every breath loud in his ears. Then Dash, the stepmother's voice, came from outside, cold and low. "Open. Let them see." Cole unlocked the door. She stood there, her arms crossed, stand behind her. The scorched body of a desert stalker beast, its throat sliced open by an energy blade. "This is what waits," she said. "When bonds are weak, dangers come." She pointed to the dead beast. "You must choose soon, not for your comfort, for their safety." She dropped something at his feet. It was a glowing scroll, sealed with the mark of her house. Then she walked away into the dark without another word. Inside, the girls gathered around the scroll. Cole picked it up and opened it slowly. Inside was the ritual guide. A path of fire and breath. A way to make the first flame permanent. And the final line chilled him the most. "If you delay too long, the house will choose for you." Cole didn't sleep that night. He didn't speak. He just stared at the heart-dashed stone and the three alien girls, who waited in silence for a decision that might change all of their lives. Before the twin suns rose, the booth door creaked open. Cole didn't move. He had been awake all night. The heartstone clutched in his hand, still pulsing with soft heat. He already knew who it was. Vera stepped inside, her face calm but her eyes holding something fierce beneath the surface. "The fire path is prepared," she said. Selly and Nyara waited outside, their heads bowed, wrapped in ceremonial cloth. They said nothing. Cole stood up slowly. "So this is it. The ritual begins." Now Vera nodded once. He followed her out into the desert morning. The suns were still low, casting long shadows across the sand. In the distance, glowing lines marked a circle etched into the earth with crystal dust and burning herbs. A gathering had formed. Silent. Figures from other alien clans stood far back, watching. The stepmother waited at the edge of the circle. "You hold the heartstone," she said. "You now place it at the center. Then each daughter will walk the path around the flame. There. Bond to you will be tested. One will rise." Cole stepped into the circle, his boots crunching over dry herbs. He placed the stone into a carved bowl at the center. As it touched the bowl, it flared with red light, and the entire circle ignited. Flames rose, forming a glowing ring. The ritual had begun. Vera went first. She stepped through the fire without flinching, her body glowing with golden marks as she walked slowly around the circle. Each step was a vow, each breath controlled. She reached the far side. placed her palm over the flames and they bent toward her like wind answering a command. Sally came next. She walked with grace. Her eyes locked on Cole the entire time. Her body shimmered with deep green energy. When she reached the other end, the fire didn't move. Instead, smoke rose, curling into shaped symbols Cole didn't understand. Finally, Niera stepped forward. She hesitated. The fire pulsed. She took a step, and the flames licked her skin. She cried out but kept walking, her eyes filled with tears. Her legs shaking, but she didn't stop. When she reached the other side, the fire calmed. The stepmother raised her arms. All have walked the circle. Now, the test of breath. The daughters stepped back. The crowd fell silent. The stepmother brought forward a strange Vesela crystal sphere filled with golden dust. She handed it to Cole. Breathe into this, then pass it to the daughters. The dust will carry your truth. It cannot be faked. Cole hesitated. What if my truth doesn't choose anyone? She looked at him, sharp and cold. Then none will be chosen, and your bond will end. Cole lifted the sphere to his lips and breathed deeply into it. The dust inside shimmered, turning red. He passed it to Vir. She breathed in. The dust turned gold. Sally took it next. The dust turned green, then Nair, as she inhaled. The sphere trembled in her hands. The dust exploded into soft blue light. The stepmother stepped forward, eyes wide. The house has spoken. She turned to Cole. You chose with your breath. He stared at the girl before him, Naira, the quiet one, the one who had never asked, never pushed, never fought, the one who almost burned in the fire, but kept walking. She looked back at him, tears shining, not with pain, but disbelief. The stepmother placed the heartstone into Naira's hands. She whispered, You are the first flame. The flames around the circle vanished. The ritual was complete. Cole didn't know what to feel, but as Niara stepped toward him, one thing became clear: he hadn't chosen her. His heart had. Cole stood in the center of the scorched ritual circle, the warmth of the fire still lingering on the wind. Naira held the heartstone close to her chest, glowing softly in her hands. Her eyes were wide, uncertain, and full of quiet wonder. But then something happened that Cole didn't expect. She turned slowly on, looked not at him, but at her sisters. And with trembling hands she held the heartstone out to them. Selly gasped. Vera stepped forward. None of them said a word. Then all three reached toward it together. The stone flared white. The crowd, watching, began whispering. The stepmother's expression hardened. This has never happened. The bond chose one, only one. But the fire did not fade. It grew. The heartstone split into 3 strands of light, each weaving into the air like threads pulled from fate itself. The girls turned to Cole this time. Not as rivals, not as competitors, but as one. Vera spoke first. You are not just hers. You are ours. Sally stepped forward. We are not 3. We are one flame with 3 faces, Ayur whispered. You gave us a future. We give you a home. Cole didn't speak. His words were gone. Something inside him changed in that moment. He had come to this dusty alien outpost just to survive, to trade scraps and keep breathing. He had no dream, no hope, no purpose. But now, 3 girls stood before him, not begging for love but offering loyalty, warmth, and a new life, and none of them needed him to choose anymore, because they had already chosen him. Weeks passed. The booth became something else. A home. They expanded it, together adding soft walls, warm floors, new lights powered by the rare crystals he had earned in. Trade. Vera built tools with him side by side. Selly cooked meals that reminded him of places he missed. Niera sat quietly each night, holding his hand as stars blinked in the sky. No one in the outpost questioned it. Anymore, the humans called it strange. The aliens called it sacred. But Cole didn't care what they called it, because he had learned something, rare in this harsh galaxy sometimes. Family doesn't begin with love. Sometimes it begins with a mistake. Bottle of whiskey. A quiet act of kindness. and a bond stronger than any contract. One night, under the twin moons, Cole looked at the girls sitting beside him, wrapped in blankets, their eyes reflecting the stars. He smiled. "All this," he said softly, "for one drink." Selly grinned. It was a strong drink. Vera leaned on his shoulder, or a strong heart. Niera kissed his hand, or both. Looked up at the sky, where no one knew his name. But here on this alien world, inside this strange little home, he was husband, protector, and something he never thought he'd be again. He was wanted, he was loved, he was theirs.